Is this just the embodiment of something, or is this the physical description of something that exists? Now, I haven't seen one of these cherubs over here. I haven't seen any angels. But then, hell, I've never seen an atom either, or an electron. And yet I'm pretty confident that they exist. Now, just because we haven't seen something, I hear this sometimes, well, have you ever seen one of these? Well, no, I haven't. Some guy says, have you ever seen one of these? Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a black hole? Have you ever seen a quasar? You see an artist's rendition of a black hole. You see a computer-generated feature, and we hang a label on it called a black hole, and we describe it, and then we believe in them. Why? Because you saw one? Hell, there's all kinds of things out there, boys and girls, that you and I have never seen that we believe in. We believe in them because we had a report. Somebody told us about it. Now, why is it that we believe what Carl Sagan tells us about black holes that he has never seen, that he theorizes probably exists, because of circumstantial evidence that he has observed, and then says, well, because of these phenomena, then I have to come up with a theory to describe something that would bring this phenomenon to my mind, and he calls it a black hole. Those are theories. This is an actual eyewitness. This God guy over here claims that the Scripture is a sworn statement made by him. And he said, I have sworn by my own self because there's none higher to swear by. None higher. I'm swearing by my own self. He says, I'm the God that cannot lie. He says, I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever. He gives us a first-hand observation, describes this cherub, tells these guys how to make one, what it looks like, describes its wings, describes its face. They go out and make a statue of it. Do we then say this is the embodiment of good, but it really doesn't exist? Is that what the author here is trying to convey to your mind? The reason I bring that up is because if Satan is simply the embodiment of evil, then isn't God simply the embodiment of good? None of us have ever seen any of these spirit beings, have we? Now, I wouldn't say that that not everybody has come in contact with one, because in Hebrews 13, verse 2, it says, you ought to entertain strangers, because some of us have entertained angels unaware. These angels, just like Satan, took on the form, the manifestation of a serpent to Eve. She wasn't looking at Satan. She was looking at a snake. The snake was talking to her. She heard a voice. That's what the author is conveying. It's what I see there. God, through angels, has talked to people. And when they do, they come down and they look like men. Many times in the Scripture you'll see that somebody has an encounter with an angel, and he looks like another man. In some cases, these angels look like something that these people have never seen before, and it just terrifies them. There's something about these angels that just scare the living daylights out of people, and they fall on the ground, and they do all kinds of obeisance to them, and then the angels tell them, no, don't worship me, I'm not here to be worshipped, that's for God only. And so they straighten them out a little bit. But these angels have appeared to people in the past. Now, there are some people that have seen them. I haven't, but some people report that they have, and the Scripture certainly reports that there are people that have. Now, there's a story over here in Job, chapter 1 and 2. It's quite a little story. It's an encounter that a patriarch, an old-timey guy by the name of Job, had with Satan, the devil. And there's a conversation between God and Satan. Let's listen in on this conversation. It says, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Eternal, and Satan came also among them. The sons of God, these are angels now, came to present themselves before the Eternal, and Satan came also among them. And the Eternal said unto Satan, he says, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Eternal and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. Notice here, if we're going to look at this as an embodiment of evil, does an embodiment of something walk up and down in the earth, go to and fro in the earth? Does the embodiment of evil answer a call for an assembly and present himself before his master? Now in verse 8 he says, And the Eternal said to Satan, Well, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth? He's a perfect and an upright man, one that fears God and eschews evil. Then Satan answered the Eternal and said, Does Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he has, and then he will curse you to your face. And the Eternal said unto Satan, Behold, all that he has is in your power, only upon him put not forth your hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. As you read the story, you'll find that Satan plagued Job, took away all of his wealth. Job was a very wealthy fellow, had a lot of money. He was the richest man in the East. He was the Bill Gates of his day. And a conversation was originated by God at a meeting when the sons of God, here described angels, came to present themselves. So these angels, from wherever they're coming from, are coming to a meeting. Meetings called by God. Satan is among them. Well, are all of these angels over here merely the embodiment of something, or are they literal creatures? If those angels are literal creatures, then why isn't Satan a literal creature? Why do you have Satan, the embodiment of evil, but you have these angels presenting themselves to God, and they're literal people, literal creatures, literal beings that walk, talk, chew gum, think, act? And in this case, Satan comes up with an idea. He says, hey, why don't you take all of his toys away from him and test him, see whether or not he'll eschew evil, whether or not he'll speak highly of you. He says he'll curse you to your face. All right, now, there's a corollary to this. There's a follow-up. In Job chapter 2, tells us another part of the story. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Eternal, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Eternal. So this guy, Satan, comes to present himself. Also tells you a little bit about the power structure here. You'll notice that it isn't Satan who is calling God to a meeting. The meeting is being called by the chief executive officer, the creator, and he calls Satan, and Satan comes just like everybody else and presents himself at the meeting. So if you were wondering about who's in control here, it seems to be the creator seems to be in control. And the Eternal said to Satan, he said, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Eternal and said, Well, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. So the Eternal said unto Satan, Well, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth? He's a perfect and an upright man, one that fears God and eschews evil. And still he holds fast to his integrity, although you moved me against him to destroy him without cause. Notice here, God himself says, you moved me to destroy him without cause. The guy was innocent. He hadn't done anything. This is a test for Job, but notice that this test was suggested by Satan. It was brought to Satan's attention by the Creator. Are these merely manifestations of good and evil, or are these conversations being carried on by literal beings who are sitting here conversing about somebody, deciding what to do with him and to him or for him that is going to produce some kind of an outcome when it's all said and done. Just leave it to you. I didn't write this. No, I'm just a reporter bringing to your attention. Does that sound like the embodiment of evil to you, or does that sound like a literal conversation between two people, two creatures, who are deciding what they're going to do with somebody, or to somebody, or with somebody? Well, Satan answered and he said, "Skin for skin, all that a man has will he give for his life." And God goes forth and he said, "But put forth your hand now," or this is Satan rather, "put forth your hand now, touch his bone and his flesh, and he'll curse you to your face." And the Eternal said to Satan, "Well, behold, he's in your hand, but save his life." And we find that twice in here, Satan has been given limitations. Limitations placed upon him. In the first case, he said, all of his goods are in your power. But don't touch Job. Second time around, he says, okay, Job you can touch, and he's in your power. But don't kill him. And so he plagues Job. This is Satan. Now he plagues Job with boils. Boils. That's about as painful a malady as you can think of. I guess cancer is pretty painful. But I had a boil one time. And boy, I'm telling you, that thing was sensitive. Now, this isn't a boil. This is boils, plural. So there's 2, 5, 9, 11, or 50. I don't know how many Job's got on him, but he's got so many on him. His wife told him, said, "Why don't you curse God and die? Why don't you get this thing over with?" Job maintained his integrity. He said, "Now, I haven't done anything." He had some friends. His 3 friends came to visit him, and they all lamented over him. And they said to him, he said, "Now, Job, you must have some secret sin. There's something you're doing here that has caused this great calamity to come upon you. Why don't you fess up and stop doing that?" And Job got thinking about that, and he said, "I can't think of anything that I've done. I don't think I'm guilty of breaking the law at all." And so our popular fairy tale here is Satan is the embodiment of evil, and he's not a literal being. Now, that isn't what we see here in the Scripture, just reading it. Is it? Well, again, I'll leave it to you. I'm not here to tell you what to believe, but I don't see that in the Scripture, and I don't see any intent by the author to leave you and I with a conclusion that there's no such person as Satan. It's just the embodiment of evil. That is a popular fairy tale. This is about this concept or this belief that Satan doesn't exist. There's no literal person named Satan. Somebody that walks, talks, and chews gum. In Ezekiel 28, verses 11 through 19, there's a little bit of a story here. It says, "Moreover, the word of the Eternal came unto me, saying," he said, "Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyre. And you say to him, Thus saith the Eternal, You sealed up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You have been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering, the sardius, the topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of your tabrets and of your pipes was prepared in you in the day that you were created. You are the anointed cherub that covers, and I have set you so. You were upon the holy mountain of God. You have walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. You were perfect in your ways from the day that you were created until iniquity was found in you. By the multitude of your merchandise they have filled the midst of you with violence, and you have sinned. Therefore I will cast you as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy you.